Oh, look at God. Okay. Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Good. Welcome to Sankofa Video Books and Cafe. I'm Christina Joy, the events coordinator here at the illustrious Sankofa. We are across the street from the illustrious Howard University, HU.
You know.
I know that's right. Tonight we have a very special guest. She is no stranger to Sankofa. Mama Marita Golden will present one of her many books, but her latest book, The New Black Woman. I'm so excited. Let's hear about Mama Marita Golden right quick. Marita Golden is an award-winning author of over 20 works of fiction and nonfiction. Her many books include the novels The Wide Circumference of Love, After and the memoirs Migrations of the Heart, Saving Our Sons, and Don't Play in the Sun, One Woman's Journey Through the Color Complex. Her most recent work of nonfiction is The New Black Woman, Loves Herself, Has Boundaries, and Heals Every Day. She is the recipient of many awards, including the Writers Award presented by Barnes & Noble and Poets and Writers, an award from the Authors Guild, and the Fiction Award for her novel After, awarded by the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. She has lectured and read from her work internationally. Co-founder and President Emerita of the Zornia Hurston and Richard Wright Foundation. Thank you, Hurston Wright. Marita Golden is a veteran teacher of writing at many universities, which include Virginia Commonwealth University. She was a guest on the Oprah Winfrey show and a question on Jeopardy as a literary consultant. She offers writing workshops, coaching, and manuscript evaluation services. Mama Marita Golden.
Thank all of you for coming out. I really needed my sisters to be with me tonight. And thank you for coming out on such a dreadful breathing day. But breathing is one of the things I talk about in this book. And we're Black women and we know how to breathe. I want to thank Sankofa for hosting me. You know, this is an institution. This is our bookstore in this city. It has been for many decades. And it's not an accident that it's one Mecca across from another Mecca.
Right.
So we are in a wonderful space, and I want to thank Haile and his wife for just staying strong in the face of everything, gentrification and everything. So thank you. Let's give them a hand. Let's give them a hand. Before I get started, I want to acknowledge two people who are good friends and who are authors who are here tonight. First, Celilian Green, stand up, Celilian, who I consider the unofficial poet laureate of Washington, D.C. Celilian is a wonderful poet. She does readings around the city, readings with jazz, and just fantastic. The last one I went to, I was so moved to tears, I bust up into the audience, bust up on the stage and started hugging. And look her up. She has a website. And then my other friend and fellow author, Michelle Petty's in the pink. She is the author of a great book called Leading Large, Stories of a Food Addict, about her journey to health. And she has a great website and is doing a lot of really important things around Black women and health. So go to her website and sign up to follow her. As I said, I'm really glad to be here tonight, and you know, we're in the midst of a real revolution, and in the book I talk about that. It's interesting that neither of these books did I plan on writing. Strong Black Woman, I consider this a syllabus. This is a syllabus for radical self-healing and radical self-care. This is a book that I wrote because I thought I was having a stroke. It wasn't. And found out I'd had 2 silent strokes at some point in my life and said, maybe you're not as strong as you thought you were. And it led me during the pandemic to write this book. People really liked this book, but they said, Marita, we want to know more about your individual practice. What do you do? And so my readers, as usual, are often sometimes smarter than me. And so this is a little book where I write about my practices of contemplation, meditation, silence, setting boundaries, and loving and caring for my body. And as I was saying earlier, I think it's such a sweet, cute little book. Just put it on your shoulder, put it in your pocketbook. You can put this under your pillow and wake up. Michelle gave me a nice blurb, and she said, this is a book you read over 30 days. Read a page, then read another page, like you're meditating. So I'm going to read a couple of little sections from the book, and then I'm really interested in us thinking about not just my journey, but your journey, because everything I wrote in Strong Black Woman and New Black Woman is based on my lived experience, but it's supported by many, many interviews with therapists, doctors, psychologists, and especially Black women who have told me about how they hurt and how they heal. And so disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, but you can trust everything I say. I began this book by writing about silence because I believe reconciliation with the beauty and power of our souls is the foundation of all the good we do in our lives and the world. Silence as we meditate, silence as we pray, silence during long walks, silence while sitting still, silence just because. In silence we connect with our intuition, our inner wisdom, and the expansiveness of our hearts. And when we do that, we can set boundaries, and we can care for our bodies and minds with compassion and dedication. I found myself in silence. Silence, the very idea of which provokes fear and wonder. Silence is both a mystery and an answer. There's a silence of our mother's womb. There's a silence we enter at death. Silence is a beginning and an end. I have found myself by entering silence through meditation and practicing intentional, intended hours of days of quiet and stillness. I've created replenishing, necessary space in my life. Silence is a door that I never fully close, that I never lock, a room I enter easily and often. During my first weekend silent retreat at Pendle Hill, I learned that silence is so many things. Silence is calm and soothing, but it is also active and dynamic. The energy that I would have expended in talking and expressing the emotions that accompany conversation found a resting place and a nesting place within me. As I took long walks around the campus, joined a group for short periods of meditation, ate with the food in silence, napped in my room, journaled, read, and actively tried to harness a contemplative mindset, I was blessedly relieved to the sound of my voice. Silence was introduced me to what I often overlook or ignore: how my body moves, the rhythm of my walk, the sound of my breathing, the feel of the sun or wind on my skin. Ideas stuffed into the corners of my mind shook off the cobwebs and stepped forth. The downtime of silence always lifts me. And I have a deep, I consider that my most deep and abiding relationship is with myself, with my inner Marita. And through silence, actually even more than through, or in conjunction with, prayer, affirmations, and reading certain kinds of texts, I have accessed my soul. And my inner Marita is my compass. She knows what I need to do. She makes me brave. She makes me smart. And a lot of people, when we talk about contemplative practices, we talk about prayer. And I love prayer and affirmations. But a lot of time with prayer and affirmations, you're asking something. God, give me a job, give me a man, give me a woman, help me with the lottery, whatever. The beautiful thing about silence is you're not asking for anything. You're just breathing in and out. And there is this conversation that we are holding in our hearts, but we can only hear when we're silent. And so, for example, the fact that I lost my mother and my father when I was very young, 21 and 23, I decided at that age that I was going to live a very healthy life. And I knew that a spiritual life was part of it, how I intentionally use my body, exercise, etc. was part of it, and just caring for my body was part of it. And so I meditated some way or other since I was in my 20s. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. Listen to the silence. It has so much to say. Rumi. And
I love the quote. In fact, one of the therapists I talked to for this book said, you need to always be in your happy place. Your mind is your happy place. Your body is your happy place. And so since wherever you are, you have your mind, you have your happy place. And very often when people think about meditation, they think you have to go to a mountaintop, or you have to be a Buddha, or you have to go on a retreat. But there's so much silence we can access in 5 minutes, in 3 minutes. I've begun doing mental health workshops, and I often open them with meditation. And I did one on Zoom one day, and one of the women said, I was getting ready to have an asthma attack before we started. And when you put us into silence, when we came out of it, I was perfectly fine. And it's interesting, we work in these jobs and they give us a smoke break. We need a nap break. We need a meditation break. And so more and more women, more and more Black women are really acknowledging the importance of that. And when I was researching The Strong Black Woman, I was just loved that I discovered that Rosa Parks had a deep and lifelong practice of yoga and meditation. And that explained something. Whenever you saw her in person or any picture of her, there was something deeply serene about her. And she said that she had been introduced to stretching as a child, and then later in her life, and this is a woman who was getting death threats and hate calls until she died. And so you would never have suspected that looking at her. So we have a long tradition as Black women, ages, antiquity of rising to meet the sun, of using our minds to commune with spirit. So that relationship with my inner Marita is crucial. I mean, I'm married to a man who has no problem with me waking up and saying, well, I'm not going to talk today. Or he gave me a Christmas gift of 2 days in a hotel room so I could just practice silence. The thing that surprised me was when my girlfriends, we got married 30 years ago, said, he let you do that? I said, what Neanderthal world are you living in? Black women are often stereotyped as never at a loss for words. As being women who always have something to say. As saying what we want to say whether others want to hear it or not. But are we saying what we need to say? Are we saying what we want to say? Language can be a shield, a preemptive strike, or a purposeful misdirection. If we're expected to always be strong, we may feel we must always be right. And right then becomes what others say it is, or what others need right to be. Our families often censor what we can express, and how honest we can be. Our jobs require we present and show up in prescribed ways. If we are trapped in a toxic love relationship, we can find ourselves performing in exchange for what only sporadically feels like love. And if we dare speak our truth in these situations, all that we hold dear, acceptance, respect, and affection may be on the line. When we can't chisel the words that will free us or authenticate us, we turn to actions. We shut down, verbally to punish others, flee a job or relationship, and let our absence do the talking. This is from Dr. Inger Burnett Ziegler. For Black women, it is often a badge of honor to sacrifice ourselves. We buy into neglecting ourselves because, quote, giving back makes us feel good, and it makes us feel powerful. It feels good to know that all these people need you, but when you're constantly saying yes, when you want to say no, you end up feeling physically and emotionally drained, resentful, and bitter. You're hiding your pain behind a smile. You're laying the seeds also for physical ailments caused by emotional stress. I tell my clients to say no. Say no, not right now. Say I can't do what you ask, but I can do something else. Loving yourself is the very first thing. Love yourself. Take care of yourself. Many of the women who come to see me were never taken care of by their mothers, so they have no idea how to mother themselves. That means they are clueless about how to set boundaries. They may have had to parent other young siblings starting at a young age and mother others, but were never mothered themselves. Many women will need therapy to learn how to set boundaries. Black women are told that their grandmothers or mothers didn't complain, bore every weight, and solved every problem, and so they have to carry on the tradition. Black women don't have to be the first responder in any crisis. In the book, I talk about setting boundaries, saying no, and then I talk about our health. And we are the canary in the coal mine in terms of health. Systemic racism, our unique history of oppression, and the legacy of all that we carried in our bodies. And so my feeling is that if we are not adopting daily practices that heal us, that lead us to love ourselves deeply and abidingly, we are co-conspiring with the forces out to kill us. And the forces out to kill us are the air out there and the white man. So we know what the forces are. And it's been, one of the reasons I wrote these books is because there's this whole army of Black women who are researchers, doctors, scientists, and just ordinary Black women who are radically, radically changing their lives. And we're the first women who could actually do that. I mean, our mothers didn't have the language to say, I'm going to engage in radical self-care. Really? Sit your ass. What you talking about? So we're in a really special place where we have more information about what we're facing, more information how to change our lives, and we are actually using it. So I think this is a very, very exciting time, but we have a lot of work to do. When I was interviewing women, therapists and doctors for both of these books, I asked the therapist, what is the one thing you would tell Black women to do? They said, be still, sit down, be quiet. And then I asked the cardiologist, he said, Black women need to move. So you need to move intentionally, not move, I got a million things to do. Like one therapist told me, Black women come to my office on the phone, on the cell phone, can't even get off the cell phone. Okay, they have so much to do, they're so busy. They don't know that they have the right to not be busy. So we need to move our bodies intentionally. Yoga, Pilates, walking intentionally to give our bodies the strength they need. And we need to rest. The other book that's brilliant besides mine, of course, is the Manifesto, Rest is Resistance. If you haven't read that, if you read these 3 books, you're set for life. Rest is Resistance is amazing. I mean, I got it going on. But when I read that book, I said, oh, I thought I had it on. I thought I was getting rest. I'm not getting as much as I need. So there's a whole library, a whole canon of texts that we have to use to guide us. And one of the things I love about this book is at the back of this book, there's a whole section of resources. This is a perfect book. I mean, a lot of women who say, well, I want to get healthy. I want to start, but I don't know how to get started. Read this. It's part inspiration and part guidance. So there are online communities, in-person communities, apps, books, films, everything you need, websites. So I'm really proud of, and my co-editor, MJ Fever, who works with Mango, she pulled that whole section together. So our health is really, really important. And see, the irony is that we are at the same time that we're now becoming more aware of how important our health is, especially our mental health. There's not enough doctors. Have you tried to get an appointment with a new doctor? Have you tried to make an appointment with a therapist?
Yes.
Hard. So that means that we have to keep doing the things that we need to do. I had a conversation with, at Politics and Prose, I was in conversation with Dr. Amber Thornton, who has a great website called Balanced Mamas. She's a young sister, about 30-something, and she has a website for women who are mothers about how to practice this. And I was telling her that by the time I got into therapy, the last therapy that radically changed my life, I only needed 4 sessions. And she said, you know why? Because you've been doing all that other work. You've been doing all that other work. So by the time you went into therapy, you were ready to roll. And she said that the patients who make the most progress and are easiest for her to work with are patients, clients who have a practice already. So we don't have to wait to get into therapy. We can become our own therapists while we're waiting to get that appointment. And I want to end just by talking about health. Our hearts. These bodies that we have are just so amazing, and we don't take care of them. We just run them ragged, and this is just such an amazing thing, that we have this body, how it works. I'm reading a new book called Breath, which is about how most of us breathe improperly and the negative health impact of that. And when you really read what breathing is, oh my God, thank you God. It's amazing. So these bodies are so precious. And it really struck me when my mother died at 21. Came home, found her on the bathroom floor. She had a stroke, her second stroke. And she died 6 months later. And my father died almost a year and a half later, a heart attack. And they didn't live to see me become the writer that they had prepared me to be. And I said, no, I'm living to see my granddaughter. And I have a beautiful 2.5-year-old granddaughter. I said, I'm out running. I talked to a man at a party last weekend. This brother was deep, probably about 76 years old. The man who was having the party said, this is Marita Golden. She's a famous writer. So he said, oh, because everybody writes these days. Every other woman's writing. So he said, can I look you up when I find you? So I said, yeah. So he looked me up. So I went in another room, sat by my house. He said, okay, you got any books on you? So I happened to have a copy of that. That man and I sat and talked for 20 minutes about walking, meditating, how he lives in North Carolina, and there's this beautiful place where every morning he goes and walks, and he looks at the clouds. I said, darn, brother, you're the new black man. So that means that this really is a revolution that is happening. And so I'm just going to end, talking about our hearts. And black women are leading victims of heart disease. And we have to look out for each other. We need to check in on our sisters, whether they like it or not. Whether they like it or not. They may need a good talking to. When was the last time you went to the doctor? I don't care if you get mad, just, whatever. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in America. It is the leading cause of death for black women. The definition of a strong black woman is a woman who gives her heart away. She gives her heart away and asks nothing in return. She gives her heart to others and feels no sense of depletion or buries anger when her requests for heart-inspired support are rejected or ignored. The traditional old-school strong black woman tells herself that this is the price of being loved and needed. But we need to think about our hearts as though they were newborn babies we are holding in our arms. A bouquet we have not expected, or the feel of the hand of someone we love who loves us. We must cherish our hearts because they are and symbolize our center, our core. We must care for our hearts, make them strong, and give our hearts metaphorically only to those who will cherish them as we do. Thank you. So, yeah. Any questions or just comments or anything you want to share about your journey? I mean, Lillian, well, I'd like to just ask Lillian, because you have a great practice of retreats. And at your last performance, you talked beautifully about going to Dayspring. Talk for a little bit about that.
So Dayspring is not far from DC, and you can actually take the red line to the end, and they will come and pick you up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's on 200 acres of land, and it's in the woods, and it's part of my practice from being a member of Unity Center, we would do silent retreats. And you would go with the church, everybody would go, and you learn how to be quiet and not talk. And then after a while, I got to where I didn't want to be with the people who would go, because invariably there would be a new person who really didn't know how to be quiet. And so I remember the last one I went with people, they were whispering, and I said, oh, this is not the whisper retreat. And see, they were upsetting me. They were upsetting me, and I realized that they were part of my lesson, because in the real world, people are talking.
Yes.
So you have to find a way to shut them out when you need to, but I really recommend going away to be quiet, because I went away to find out why all these poems were coming to me at that particular time. And while I was there, I had a poem that came to me for Dayspring, and I wrote called The Ode to Dayspring. So I do recommend getting quiet. And at the time I was living alone, and I had a friend whose children I would babysit from time to time. And she said, well, why do you need to go away? You live alone? You want me to bring my kids over here so you can really feel why you need quiet? And I said, it's not the same as being in your house. Really, you need to go away. And on Dayspring, they have places where you can walk around. They have water, not really lakes, but there are places where you can sit. They have a labyrinth that you can walk. They have an outdoor stage, although there's no talking. There's been no talking there for like over 50 years. And you could just really be quiet and listen, because you can't say anything, just listen to God. So I really do recommend that. But one other thing I wanted to point out is that it is important to learn how to say no. And I actually wrote a poem called No. But no, there's two words spelled out in the alphabet. The word no, N-O, and the word hi, H-I. These are the only two words spelled out in the alphabet. And if you learn how to say no, it's really important, because most people can't say those two little words, no, and it will help you. And you don't have to really qualify it, although for some people you might have to add a P and an E if need be. So you tell them, nope, can't do it.
No. No. Yeah, and I think that I write in the book about going to Pendle Hill, and when you go away, it's very special. But you can also be silent in your house. It's not the same. Sometimes I don't always want to go up to Pendle Hill. I will check into a hotel. Sometimes I will just have a day of quiet, but I'll be going around doing something. But in my mind, I'm quiet. This morning I woke up, and I've been very busy yesterday. And I'm one of these people, I wake up and I do my meditation, I do my reading, and I get up early. I love getting up early. I'm so grateful that I have a life full of exciting, interesting things that I can't wait to do. But I realized this morning that I needed to stay in bed a little longer. So for me, I stayed in bed till 10:30, which is obscene, because I'm usually at the computer 2 hours earlier. But I needed that. And I'm at a point where I listen to my body, and and oh God, there's so many hours in the day. There's 24 hours. If you don't want to do it today, do it tomorrow. If they said you have to put it in Tuesday, well, tell them, no, let's negotiate Thursday. And one of the great things about getting older is you learn that you have this power, to control your life, to create your life. You can say no, So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Anybody else?
I wanted to piggyback on Dayspring. I go there in September of every year.
Oh, okay.
And I remember the first time I went there, I didn't know what to do with myself, and I was like, what am I doing here? I got scared, but because I was there and I didn't see anybody, and I was like, where are these people? And they did come pick me up at the subway. And they brought me there, and I was like, I was ready to do this but I was petrified because it was silent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to be. How long were you there? Just for the afternoon?
No, I was there the weekend of Labor Day. I go there every other year now.
Oh, okay.
And I've been doing it for about 10 years.
Oh, long girl.
But then I saw somebody walking by, and I said, where's that person? It was people there. They were from Germany, France, and when you go to the big house, that's what I call it. That's where they talk. But I was petrified just being there by myself. Sure. I didn't know what to do. Right.
And I think also, I'm going to be very honest, that so many horrible things have happened to Black people out in nature.
Yeah.
And out in the woods. that there's a residual memory that's taken place there. But I'm glad to hear that you know.
Oh,
You
yeah,
go there
I look forward.
Yeah.
And I got sticks every time I go there, and my kids be, why are you bringing these sticks back? But I have them because it reminds me for that time I was there. But it
And
is
see, now that I
something.
know, you know, pick you up this, because I wanted to go, but I didn't want to drive 270. So now that I know I can take the
red line.
red line, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
they'll come pick you up.
That's perfect. Yeah. Anybody else?
What, just a question, what is it like? Is it a hotel or is it
No.
little cabins or
Oh, it's like a dormitory setting. You have a twin bed with a sink in it, and then they have a common shower.
Okay.
But the last time that I was talking about at my event was when I went up there and there was nobody there, which was made me just a little nervous. But I knew I had to go in here, so I stayed in the handicap room, which has its own bathroom.
Okay.
But at night, it's very different kind of quiet in the woods.
Yeah.
And the caretaker asked me if I wanted to stay because there was no one there. And I said I have to stay because I was sent here to hear something. And so I did stay. But it's worth it because my first time doing silent retreat years ago, I would take books so I could have something to read to distract me. But after a while, you don't need that. You'll get to where you can just do it, and you want to do it, and it's part of.
Yeah. And sometimes people can't be silent because the silence is filled with their fear and their unhealed traumas, and that's what they hear. And they may need support around developing the ability to hear their souls and not their fears.
And I think too, when you're in the silence, whatever's coming to you is supposed to come. So don't be afraid of whatever that is.
Right.
A place like Dayspring where you can walk around and see butterflies and the sunflowers, whatever comes to me is supposed to be coming. That's how I feel it. And every time I go, I'm taking some sort of lesson. Like one time I cut across, I didn't take the path. I cut through the woods, and I got home, got to back to the where I take my bath, and I had a tick on me, and I was like, oh no! I get out the tub, a tick. I'm like, oh my God! So that was my lesson. Stay on your path. I mean, really, that's what I thought it was
Right.
about. Stay on your path. We got paths out here. There's always a
There's
lesson.
a reason
for
that
your
we
lesson.
have
Yes.
paths.
Yes.
I am an elementary teacher, and I require students to have some silent time.
Good.
And it's amazing to see at the beginning, it's like a punishment to them. They don't know what to do with it. I think many of them have never really experienced silence before. And then over the year, you see an appreciation for it. And they really, some of them don't even read during that time. They just sit and they think. But I see a gradual progression for them appreciating having silent time. Many of them in their homes, they probably don't get any silence.
Yeah.
There's always a TV, music.
Yeah.
So it's valuable.
Yeah. I mean, and I saw a YouTube video of a little 4-year-old meditating. And so, you know, and in the book I talk about, you know, some people may feel that these kinds of things we're talking about, oh, that's great if you're a middle class, whatever. But I have been a harried single mother, working class after my divorce from my first husband. And I practiced these. The fact that I had this contemplative practice helped me move from being working class to this, okay? So these are, if you're in a small apartment with people, you can close the door, 1 hour, nobody comes in here. You know, you can tell your kids, beat it, you know. I think that once you understand that you deserve that, it's solved. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, Marita, that last thing you said, once you understand that you deserve that, I think it's even deeper than just deserving it.
Okay.
I think it's vital. You know, it's vital because when we think about it, our mind is the most powerful thing about us. And when we go into this silence, right, it it allows us to give our thoughts value that we might sometimes miss. And it is that inner Marita, the inner Michelle, the inner whatever we got, that the meditation, the silence, the writing, all of that's exercise, that's training. I mean, we have our brains and our thoughts drive our actions. Our thoughts drive our lives, and we need to start with that every day. Really, that's so powerful.
I have a daughter who's in her 30s, and one of the things that I notice about that age group is they're so programmed to consume, and they shop online, they shop for what they call it mental health day, or whatever, they get paid, they shop, everything shop. And I think one other important thing about self-care is our environment. Not just our bodies, but our external environment. Because when I go in her place and there's, go in the bathroom, there's makeup all over everywhere. You can't find anything, clothes all over the floor.
Clutter.
Yeah, and your mind can't rest in your own home silence when the external is so distracting and chaotic.
Well, it's an expression of what's in her mind.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, I don't mean to say, since we're filming this, I'm talking about the generation of my daughter. I'm not talking about the daughter. But yeah, and so I think that's something, and I also think
And
it's
they're overwhelmed by stuff that we weren't, our generation.
right. Yeah, every moment is some inspiration to buy to get away from
Themselves.
exactly. Yeah. So.
Anyone else have?
Go. Now, just one more thing. I went to one of her workshops, and it's working so well for me because my grandson is needy, and she had told me I'm a first responder. And he came to my house, and I was like, not today. I need to figure this out. And he did.
Yeah.
I thank you so much because I was one of the first responders. I had to fix everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I felt so good. And I have a big circle in the middle of my mirror. And I showed my face. I said, that's right. I said, you are new. And I have it around there. And it's really
Good.
morning I look in there. And
Yeah, she's talking about a workshop I did at Martin Luther King Library called Time for Me. 90, about, we actually did meditation. We actually wrote an action plan for what you're doing now, what you're gonna do, how you can do it. We practiced, we took case studies of people in the group and said, let's tell her how to say no. Later this year, I'll be doing one on Zoom, so if you're on my email list, you will get information about that.
I wanted to ask a question. I'm not quite sure how to frame it exactly, but for the past several weeks, I have really had trouble sleeping.
Join the club.
Yes. Okay.
America. has trouble sleeping.
And it's like, I know I have to get up at a certain time, and then the hours are just going by. I change positions. I try different things to get through it. You mentioned fears and things like that. I guess that's part of it, but I don't know. I just wondered what recommendations you might have.
Well, I've suffered with off and on insomnia for
Much of my adult life, and when I was going through menopause, the only symptom I had was insomnia. But there are, they say your nighttime hygiene. Don't eat close to bedtime. Don't drink alcohol. Don't eat sweets and things like that. Yoga positions. There are yoga positions. There are breathing positions that do actively relax you, so that you can fall asleep faster. You want to see if it's maybe sleep apnea. Turning off, the electronics and all of that. This from someone who struggles with insomnia. But it is a struggle. But I think just do what you can. And some people say just go with it. You know, just sleep as much that you're actually probably getting more rest than you think you are. And sometimes it's better just get up and do something. And then that will, you know, put you back to sleep. But I think for everybody it's a different journey. But that's kind of the disease of this age, you know, and it's typical because we're 24 hours grinding. We grind our teeth in our sleep. We're grinding all day long. So it's hard to stop, you know, grinding. So,
Can I share something with you?
sure, go ahead.
When I used to play Ivy Hilton, she plays the crystal bowls, and I would use those to quiet my house. It's a very calming. And from her, one of her CDs, she had a tone in there that whenever I would hear it, it would just make me be still. And I went searching for this tone, and I finally found it, and I hung it in when you come to my door. And if you're tall, you'll hit it. And so, but there might be a tone that goes with you. Or something. I play the Tibetan bowls too. Those are sounds.
And those are on
nice.
YouTube.
Yeah, they're YouTube free. There's a 9-hour one that I play now.
Yeah.
And it will put you very calming. Very calming.
Yeah.
And if it's like 3 or 4 in the morning, that's the hour of God. You might want to get up and talk. Or listen. That's right.
So YouTube is great. I mean, meditation, singing, chanting, bowls, whatever. A lot of information. So as the last thing, I want to actually read a paragraph from The Strong Black Woman. And in that book, the chapter that, well, the 2 chapters that meant, I think, the most to me, I'm proud of the book. I devoted the chapter to Black women talking about their hurt and healing, talking about how they've been in therapy and how they had learned to say no and set boundaries. The other chapter that meant a lot to me was a chapter where I got to thinking about our sheroes, our heroes, and how when we talked about people like Rosa Parks and Fannie Lou Hamer and Harriet Tubman, they were always victorious, they were always invincible, they were always super strong. And so I wanted to channel a different voice coming from them. And so I did research about them, and then I gave myself permission to speak in a voice that revealed their vulnerabilities as well as their strength. And this is the opening section of Fannie Lou Hamer. And not until I wrote this book did I realize how absolutely revolutionary it was when she said the words sick and tired and the multiple meanings of that. See, it's time for America to wake up and know that we're not going to tolerate, we're not begging anymore. And I'm not going to say it's not anymore going to die, because I'm never sure when I leave home whether I'll get back home or not. But if I fall while I'm in Kentucky, I'll fall 5 feet and 4 inches forward for freedom. And I'm not backing off. Fannie Lou Hamer from a speech made in Kentucky, 1968. I was one of the wretched of the earth. I was a sharecropper, the daughter of a sharecropper. The rich, black, fertile soil of Mississippi was in my bones. If I was mute and couldn't talk, my body would tell my story. My arms would tell you how, as the youngest of 19 children, I reached out to be held by mother and father and brothers and sisters who sheltered and loved me. My hands would remember starting to pick cotton when I was 6. My feet would tell you about the feel of rags against their skin, because I didn't have those shoes. My stomach would recreate the sound of being hungry all the time as a way of life, because that's the way everybody around us was living. I had polio. My womb would whisper and shed the tears I cried when I miscarried and then got sterilized without my knowledge. And after I was beaten in the county jail for working with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, to register voters, my body never healed. How could it? When I said I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, I was tired. This is the story my body would tell you, but this is my story, and I'm not mute. I was more than a body. I had a will, a sense of purpose that patched my broken bones and kept resurrecting my fight, my courage, at the first sign of giving up. And when you realize what that woman's body had endured, if you don't know that,
You say, wow, all the things she did. But when you know that, she is even more worthy of the respect and the praise that she's earned. And when she was leading people in singing gospel songs, during the Freedom Rise and all that, that was her medicine. That was her medicine. That's what gave her strength. The reason they would sing those songs is because music gave those people courage. It gave them the courage to overcome their fears. And she died, I think, at the age of 54. But she lived a life as long as like Rosa Parks, who died at 92. But I think it's important to know what her body endured. We shouldn't be ashamed to hear the story of what her body endured. It was a Black female body, and she changed the world in that body. Thank you for coming out. Oh, good.
I just want to say, I want you to know we don't take you for granted. You are a very revolutionary force. You exist, and we complementarily exist with you in this town, Washington, D.C. You're accessible, and sometimes our people prefer mysterious, inaccessible people and take you for granted. I don't want you to think today, I'm going to kill some people later. I want you to know we don't take you for granted.
I know I'm loved.
You're precious.
I know I'm loved.
You're
Thank
precious.
you.
In terms of just a little bit of I want to add, I think what you're advocating now is really a form of advising us to retrieve the faculty of our imagination, because by and large, the majority of our people are captive prisoner of wars of noise, and you are busting that area. I sat there and I said, my goodness, this is where we will find our art, our voice, our music, but we need to retrieve and free individuals from the new form of enslavement, which is noise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh yeah, thank you folks for coming.
So if anybody needs a book for me to sign,